Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution.
Daylight collapses on itself.
You know something is wrong when Stallone actually gives one of the best performances in the picture.
I lost count of how many times I laughed out loud at the wrong places.
The only thing that collapsed faster than the tunnel was my faith in Sylvester Stallone's career choices.
There was a point when I started rooting for certain characters to die just so I didn't have to watch them act anymore.
I haven't seen acting this wooden since Geppetto carved Pinocchio.
It's just another disaster movie.
Spoiler alert, it's a disaster, but not the kind you were hoping for.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
This week we're getting into the 1996 disaster classic, Daylight. And this movie, like all the movies, I guess, I say this every week, this movie was awesome.
Yeah, it's I meant to add when you mentioned the movie, Academy Award nominated Daylight.
Yes, and it's not often we get the chance to have Academy Award nominated movies on here. So great for mentioning that, because that's absolutely right. And it should have won. I'm just going to put that out there. It should have won.
Yeah. Sound editing. Sound was amazing. We'll get to that later, but yeah, absolutely should have won. Yeah, this is one I kind of forgot about. I remember, but once you brought it up, I remember watching it as a kid. It's one of those where you hope it's still held up, and then you watched it and you're like, well, more than held up. It's almost better now watching it as an adult. This movie is so good.
Absolutely. It's one of those, I think it got lost kind of in the sands of time of the mid 90s disaster flick era that everyone went through. There was Volcano, there was Dante's Peak, obviously. There was Twister, maybe Independence Day, you call it a disaster. There's just all these disaster movies within a short time span. And for whatever reason, just some stuck with us longer than others. And this is one of those ones that sort of just got discarded.
Yeah, I don't know why it's forgotten, but I'm glad it was, so we got to do it.
Absolutely. It was a ton of fun. As always, all the movies that we review on this podcast are at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audiences. And we structure the podcast so that the first half is spoiler-free, talk about some things to look for in the film, and then take a break, go watch the movie, come back, and talk about what we just went through.
Rotten premise. A group of armed robbers fleeing the police head for the New Jersey tunnel and run right into the trucks transporting toxic waste. The spectacular explosion that follows results in both ends of the tunnel collapsing, and the handful of people who survived the explosion are now in peril. Kit Latura is the only man with the skill and knowledge to lead the band of survivors out of the tunnel before the structure collapses. Critics, lowly 26, audience 37%.
Again, it's not one of these things that's surprising that the audience is higher than the critics, but both shockingly low.
Yeah, I mean, I get that critics don't usually like these disaster movies, but I think as far as disaster movies go, this one's a pretty good one. So I was surprised it wasn't a little bit higher.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So the movie came out December 6th, 1996, as I mentioned, sort of in the heyday of the 1990s disaster flick movement. It came out number 2, only opened at $10 million. It was behind the second week of 101 Dalmatians. So we talked about this before, coming in second to a Disney film, especially a classic like 101 Dalmatians, that's number 1.
That's number 1.
And a $10 million opening, it's nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure they were hoping for more. It ended up only taking in $33 million domestically, but worldwide took in $159 million box office on an $80 million budget.
That's got to be the Stallone effect.
Yeah, and I think disasters like travel cultures too. Like everyone knows about a disaster. You know, it's tough for a rom-com or something, but a disaster,
right?
That could be any language. And I got a little bit of background here on the Holland Tunnel. Obviously, this movie takes place in the Holland Tunnel. Figured a little Holland Tunnel trivia should be good, and you do get a little in the film. So, but I figure a little bit more background is good for everyone here.
Yeah.
Opened in 1927. 8,500 feet long, approximately, 93 feet below the surface. So definitely keep that in mind as this film goes on. Some of that comes in handy. When it opened, it was the longest underwater tunnel for vehicular traffic, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is
It was
pretty cool.
also the first mechanically ventilated tunnel ever made. So the first one where fans are pulling in the air to bring in the clean air. Pretty cool. This blew my mind. The fans in the tunnel change out all the air in the tunnel every 90 seconds. So every 90 seconds, if you're in there 91 seconds, all the air totally new from when you first went into the tunnel. That's insane.
I bet near those fans is pretty windy.
I bet you're right. And they've done tests in the tunnel, and the air quality is actually better in the tunnel than in the average Manhattan street because of these ventilation fans.
Incredible.
It is insane. You figure you're in a tunnel, you're like, oh, this is terrible air. We got to get out of here. No, that's the best air you're going to get in New York is in the tunnel.
I was told as a kid to roll up the window in the tunnel because all the air was going to get in there, all that bad air. But I guess maybe that was true, except for this tunnel.
Yeah, it's probably if you're in a regular crappy tunnel, that's for sure. And they get 90 to 100,000 cars every day going through this tunnel right now. So that's mostly it. I will add that there was a Holland Tunnel fire in 1949. That this is even saying very loosely based is maybe a stretch, but I guess you could say takes inspiration from that tunnel fire, because there was a truck carrying 80 55-gallon drums of hazardous materials that did catch on fire in the truck in the tunnel, and it was the type of waste that was not allowed in the tunnel at the time for obvious reasons. So that you will see is a clear inspiration, or at least
maybe this movie is based on true events. I'm surprised it didn't get a based on a true story before.
I feel like it could have wore that.
Yeah, it's pretty close. How does this movie do for you as far as bolos? Lots, little? Did you struggle?
I didn't struggle. I wouldn't say it's one of those films that for me had pages and pages, but it's not sparse either. I'd say it's probably in the middle. What about you?
Same exact thing. Didn't struggle, but I would say right in the middle. Let's start with our bolos. Be on the lookouts. Be on the lookout for the opening credits and their tunnel theme.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to say another right off the bat one. Be on the lookout, Bolo, some toxic waste. Some absolutely just beautiful toxic waste. So toxic.
Yeah, I'll scratch that off. I had the exact... So toxic you could clearly see it. Bolo, for fans of the show, Lincoln Tyler. Go Tyler.
Oh,
Go Tyler.
Yeah. Bolo, I'll follow that up on there's a handful of actors in here that are like, oh yeah, that guy.
Big time.
I'm going to go Bolo, the dad from Clueless.
Yep. Bolo, Angela, Sean's girlfriend from Boy Meets World.
I had that next on my list. Bolo, roaches.
Bolo, rats. It's like we're in Manhattan.
The degree to which rats are crucial to this movie cannot be overstated.
Nope, it cannot.
And they come up multiple times. It's
multiple times.
It's
good
great.
And bad, but big part of the movie.
This is, I think, our second of movie where we have this Bolo, but Bolo and Answering Machine.
This is also the second time I think we did this. I picked this one. People being cold but not being able to see their breath. Usually when you're shivering on the point of hypothermia, when it's cold out, you can see the breath.
Mm-hmm.
Not so in this movie.
Sometimes that's how it happens. You can be cold and it cannot be cold at the same time.
That's true.
I'm going to say Bolo, a roof rocker. And you're kind of just going to have to keep an eye for it.
Good one. I should have done this one before. But Bolo, Iman Easy from Coming to America. If you don't know who that is from the movie Coming to America, that was the first woman that was promised to the Prince of Zamunda, Eddie Murphy. And she was barking like a dog and hopping on one foot. She is in this movie. Without a Zamundan accent, a different
accent, yes. Also great.
Also great.
And this is our second back-to-back movie with this feature, but Bolo, a face tattoo.
Yeah, good one. Bolo, multiple affairs?
Yes. The first time I watched it, I was confused because at first I was like, wait a minute. Are these related? But I don't think they are, but I was confused.
Yeah, me too.
Bolo, Bolo the Twin Towers. It's always great to see those. It's a bittersweet great, but it's always great to see the Twin Towers.
Yeah, odd sort of feeling with this because it's the reaction to it is a little bit eerily similar, I think, to like the disaster in New York and the response and stuff, and the first responders going in while everyone else is leaving. That part was pretty cool. So I like that as well. Bolo, a fake mustache.
It's such a great fake mustache.
The thing is, the person who has it usually has a great real mustache.
Yeah, it's he must have been doing 2 movies at once or something, but
it could have been the First Wives Club. I think he was clean shaven in that.
Yeah. Bolo, a live wire.
Nice. Bolo, pep talks and platitudes.
Yep. Let's say Bolo, a car fax machine. This might be the only movie I've ever seen one of those.
We had a car boombox in one of the or like a portable CD player or boombox in one, but a car fax machine. That was incredible. Be on the lookout for it. Bolo, hubris.
Yeah, watch out for that. Really, always in life. That's a
always.
good Bolo.
Yep.
Bolo, and this made me think of sudden death, but Bolo, a one-armed pull-up.
That was so impressive. Bolo, New York-ish in Jamaican-ish accents.
And Bolo Jesus.
Bolo Jesus. Bolo, someone with ample time to clean off their face throughout the movie, but never cleaning off their face.
I'm going to say Bolo, a very large watch.
Nice watch. That set off, apparently, a bit of a trend outside of Italy because of this movie.
Yeah, I think this watch was a trendsetter. This movie changed pop culture in some ways.
Yeah, definitely watch culture. Bolo, Bolo, a sinister female haircut.
Yes, absolutely.
There's like one go-to haircut if a woman is sinister. Just give her this haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you walk into the barbershop or the hair salon and they have all the different things, the pictures, and you're just like, sinister, give me the sinisters. I got a meeting I gotta be bad at.
It's like a similar haircut to the female villain in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
I'm gonna say Bolo, a table full of plastic bottles. I was watching this and my wife walks in and she says, "What is the deal with all these plastic bottles?" And then I was like, wait a minute, what is the deal with all these plastic bottles? It's like 3 times as many bottles as there are people at this table.
I don't think we realized the plastic that was being used in the 90s. It was quite a lot. Bolo, just grabbing people off in their arms and shoulders, just grabbing people.
It's different era.
Different era.
This will be my last one. I'm going to say Bolo Colgate.
Rattle off a couple more here. A few more. Bolo planning to lie to someone's dad. Bolo being surprised by momentum. Bolo amazing teamwork. And my last one, my favorite one, Bolo maybe the best title line usage we've had.
It's fantastic. It's so good.
Wait for it. It's worth it. All right. Let's move on to drink to pair with the movie. What do you got? What's the best drink to pair with this movie?
So this one ties into one of my Bolos. I just loved the toxic waste so much in the beginning of this film. It's so toxic. It's so obviously toxic that I was like, I need to get a drink that just ties into this. So there's actually a cocktail called the Toxic Waste Cocktail, and it's named that for how it looks. It is like glowing neon green. I've never seen anything quite like this, but it is vodka, sour apple schnapps, blue curacao, which is makes a frequent appearance on this show, orange juice, citrus bitters, and club soda. And it's this like neon green, like Slimer-esque drink. Definitely toxic, but have yourself a few toxic waste drinks and just have a night.
Get toxic wasted?
Exactly. Yes, get toxic wasted. Couldn't have said it better myself.
A drink.
It sounds delicious.
I guess we both had the same idea. I think we both went with like a cocktail that fits the idea of this, because I did go down that rabbit hole, and then I was also down another one. I think it's a little like there's a lot of tetanus options down there. Like, you're gonna get stuck with something. You're not gonna come out okay. So this is the very simple cocktail, the Rusty Nail, which is 2 parts Scotch whiskey and 1 part Drambuie on cold ice. This is also a favorite drink of the Rat Pack back in the day.
Ooh, a little twofer there. I like it. I don't think I've ever had a Rusty Nail.
Me neither, but sounds like I should have had it by now.
It does. What is Drambuie?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask. Don't really know.
It's one of those things I see on menus all the time, and I'm sure I've had it in drinks, but I have no idea what it is.
Is it an aperitif, a digestive? Does it just go in drinks? I don't know.
We'll have to find out.
Well, let's try it out. We'll try the Rusty Nail and see what it is.
Deal.
All right, either one of those drinks would be perfect to go with this movie. This is a lot of fun, and enjoy. We'll see you on the other side.
Nice. Enjoy.
In the middle of rush hour, 100 feet below the Hudson River, the unthinkable is about to happen.
Can anybody hear me out there? Come back. Oh, God, we've got fatalities down here. You've got no authority to come in here. But we did a simulation. They'll all be dead before you get through dead.
How many people are left alive down there?
Maybe a dozen, and we're in the middle of the tunnel.
That tunnel is sealed from both ends.
We're gonna die. I'm gonna try to find you some help. Help! You are help!
On December 6th, Universal Pictures dares you to take on the tunnel.
The whole damn thing could implode.
So what do you plan on doing? I don't know. I don't know anything.
So you never had a way out of here, did you?
Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that movie, I don't know, 20 minutes of that movie are just fire.
Yep.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. I had my 2-year-old son in the background for parts of it during that first 20 minutes. And that's what he yelled. He goes, fire, fire, during that first 20 minutes. And you're right, that first 20 minutes is fire. I paused it at one point because I was like, this is incredible. How long is this going to go on for? And you're right, it was like 19 minutes and change when I paused it. So good.
So good. Just a fun time. They should. It seems like these disaster movies go in cycles, and it feels like we're due for another disaster movie cycle, and I'm all in for it.
It's such a gamble. I don't know if you mentioned what the budget was going into.
Yeah, it was $80 million.
$80 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Movies don't spend that. I mean,
No.
They don't spend that on movies very much at all anymore. They don't have to. This movie had so many practical effects that were so cool. Now they would just make it so much cheaper now. So they wouldn't have to do that stuff. What do you got for your first pick in the draft?
So first pick for me, this was an easy one. I'm going with the explosion. That opening scene explosion is it takes the cake for me. It has overtaken the pyroclastic cloud from Dante's Peak. It is now my favorite explosion of the podcast. It was unbelievable.
That's a bold statement, and I think I agree with it. But if you think like right after this podcast, if you just watched that explosion again from Dante's Peak, you would shift, or is it a recency bias, or you're locked in?
Both. I'm sure it's a recency bias, but I am also 100% locked in.
I think I'd make that page too. I was just like, I couldn't believe the movie alone didn't get great ratings from that opening fireball explosion thing and on its own.
It went on and on. It was so realistic looking. the fact that they did all these practical effects. I mean, this is one of these things that makes this era of movie so fantastic. You know, it's like right after this, they start to go too much into that early stage CGI where it just doesn't look right. So they're still doing everything with practical effects, and it's awesome. I mean, this looks real because it is real. They just did it on a smaller scale, but the opening explosions are like they just blew me away. They were so good.
Yeah, same here. Like, I was so blown away that this was like 1996. It looks real in movies today because it is practical effects, because it is real. They're filming what actually happened, which seems like a crazy idea now, but that's how things used to be.
Right. This movie comes out today. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as this.
No, absolutely not. But also, people aren't getting hurt. I think Stallone got a horrible neck injury from this and a few other things, but that's part of the risk, part of the fun. My first pick, since you took that, which was the clear, obvious first pick, but I'm glad to get this one. It's sort of like I always like the getting the gang together sort of montage or snippets. In the beginning of this movie was done so well. They only had to everyone who was going to be part of that crew that was trying to get out had like a quick little minute vignette of like their lives, a little snippet or snapshot into their, like a couple lines of dialogue where you're like, oh, she's the bitchy housewife. He's an awful dad. Oh, this is a rich couple. Oh, these are the juvies. Like, you just knew a little bit. Oh, this is a stressed out woman who's at the brink screaming that she's getting out of New York and is done with this city. And you just like, you get where every character is coming from so quickly. You didn't need to have the text before or some long, like 10-minute scene to understand who they were. It was a quick, like 30 seconds. You're like, I got it. I know who they are.
Yeah, that's totally right. I had that as well. That opening scene, it's, I don't know, 4 minutes, something like that. And it's, you instantly know, every one of these people is getting stuck in that tunnel, and you know all that you need to know about them.
And right when that limo driver turns around, Sly is going to try and get them out of there.
Oh yeah, that's a great pick.
Fireball. This is tough. Well, since you took that one, I can't let you take two of the best scenes for effects and stuff. Actually, no, not many effects in this, but I'm going to take the wind tunnel turbine scene of just coming of Stallone on his own.
So good.
Going through that maze of fans. It was just like already, like, I guess if you go to The Rock when they have to get through that section.
It definitely made me think of The Rock. It made me think of, maybe it's Mission Impossible 2 or 3. I get those mixed up. There's a Mission Impossible that has a very similar scene as well.
Yeah, anytime someone's trying to get through the spinning blades, it's going to be fun. And then never mind, four of them on top of each other, and he falls down from one to the next. And then there's that air shaft scene that we talked about a little bit in the first half.
And the clocks. Like the fact that you're going through one and then another, and these awesome digital red clocks just ticking down.
They turned off. There was no score to it. You just heard his like groans and the sound. I think that was amazing. There was no music to it. It was just like everything that was going on. It just locked you into that moment. And I also thought it was funny at the beginning when they're like, "All right, it's going to stop," and then they go, "Why isn't it stopping?" Because it keeps spinning. Because it turned off. There's no brakes. There's no brakes. What did you think was going to happen when you turned it off? We should have planned for this.
I loved that too, because it almost felt like that just happened. Like, it felt very real. Like it felt like that happened in the movie. Like they're like, wait a minute, whoa, this thing didn't stop.
Oh, brakes. That's right.
Yeah. The whole scene was great. Stallone's wind acting, I thought, was phenomenal in that scene. Once the turbines did kick back on, and he's having to fight against, and they talk about it. Oh, it's going to be like hundreds of miles an hour, and he nailed it. It was so good.
And then even to cap it off, when he comes out of there and his just ears are basically bleeding with noise, he just wants a little bit of quiet. They all just start screaming at him. He can't get a moment's peace. And it was kind of like that the rest of the time for him down there.
Yeah, it was such an amazing scene. It was one of those scenes that I almost could feel like the director or the screenwriter, whoever came up with that, like, I feel like they had that scene and they were just like, this is such an amazing scene. Which movie can I put this in? Like, I feel like you could have fit this into a whole bunch of different disaster or action movies. And I'm so glad they put it in this one, because it was so good. It was almost like a mini movie in itself.
Yeah, it was. It's like what was that? What's our Gator movie or Croc movie that we
Like Placid?
like Placid. That movie was made on spec from that
Yep.
from the Gator, and like this is like we got 4 wind turbines above each other. We're gonna put this in a movie. Do you want it? Yeah. We'll just put it in and we'll fit it into our movie somewhere. Yeah, cool. We'll make the movie around these fans.
Yep. And then knowing that it was that's like a crucial part of the tunnel. This is the first, mechanically vented tunnel, and they had to figure out all this air circulation. It really adds to the uniqueness and like the fit of that scene into the film.
Yeah, and the beginning of it too, where the guy who brought out the huge old model of the original construction of it, and even he didn't have, like, he was showing everyone where everything was, and then he's like, "Where's the entry point?" And Stallone like flips open the corner of it. It's like right there, that fan.
Oh yeah,
guy who doesn't even know this as well as I do.
I feel like we've nailed the top picks. I am gonna take, and this might seem crazy to take this actor ahead of Stallone, but I'm doing it. We talked about him in the Bolo. I'm taking Stan Shaw, who played George Tyrell here, the sort of tunnel policeman security guy. He absolutely crushed it. And I think he gets a lot of acclaim for it, because I know a lot of the reviews kind of rip on the non-core members of the cast, but review after review does note that he is fantastic. So I think people did recognize that he had just an excellent turn here. He hit one of those roles like I definitely think that he also should have been nominated. They should have had at least 2 Academy Award nominations. He should have gotten a Best Supporting Actor for that role in this. I mean, it was a tough role to play because he's sort of like sidekicky, but he brought a lot to it and just absolutely nailed this role.
I don't know how he didn't get like third billing or second billing. I guess it was like a bait and switch with the Viggo Mortensen stuff to not have him on there. And I guess his name isn't as well known, but you are 100% right. Like, he had to do everything in this. He was acting to a camera. He had a love interest. He was not the reluctant hero, but like when nobody else could do it, he's like, I'll go to the Manhattan Inn and check it out. Like, he's always doing stuff for others. So sympathetic. The whole so sympathetic, where everyone banded behind for the first time to become a team to help him out. Such a great character in this.
He could be the most complete character in the entire movie, including the main characters.
Oh, absolutely. And in his story at the end, when he finally I finally meet a girl and I've had all this bad luck and this happens.
Yeah, he was great. My third pick, I have to take this anytime we get this combination in any of our films. I'm doing the combination of water and fire. I love when water and fire are in the same place at the same time. And there's so much. I love how they did that with this film, where it's this massive explosion. Everything's on fire. There's the electrical fire. There's just fires there's like random fires just spurting out left and right all over the place. And then they kind of think that they've got that under control a little bit. And then just like the ocean starts pouring in from the ceiling. And they're like, oh shit, the ocean. The layers upon layers of catastrophe here, and just the coexistence of fire and water. It's always a more extreme scenario. Love it every time. Had to take that here.
Yeah, I had that written down. Like, I think you were going to pick this, and I'm glad you did, because it was so cool. You're right. It's so like 2 extremes. You want to get burned to death, or do you want to freeze to death or drown to death? If you're George, you get to do one of those. So now we're on my third pick. And I could have taken this first, but I thought I could wait. I thought I could get him here. I'm going to take the soundtrack by Randy Edelman.
Ooh.
Are you familiar with this man?
No, I'm not.
My goodness, does he have a catalog? I mean, this movie, as we know, was nominated for an Academy Award for sound editing, but partly because of his amazing score. He also did the score for one of our first 3 movies, Anaconda. So he did that one.
Oh, wow.
As well as, let me just run down this list here. He has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 top grossing film awards. This man's career is insane. If you want to just go down a deep dive of like some of the best scores in movie history and some of the funniest ones, like he did like Corky Romano and like Osmosis Jones and stuff. But he also had some just amazing, like nominated for so many awards. I think he did Billy Madison too, but the score of this movie was incredible. And then I clicked on the guy's name, and I'm just like, wow, no wonder why this guy has such a huge catalog. So the soundtrack to this movie was so cool, and the intelligence not to insert himself in that turbine scene when he didn't put the score in there. He just let the scene speak for itself. It takes a lot of patience and some confidence to let that happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think probably most a lesser experienced person would say this is the one of the core scenes in the film. I need to be a part of this. But you're absolutely right. Dialing it back and just letting us be in that scene made the scene.
Absolutely. If there was like dun, 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 type of music in there, would have like taken away from it.
Yeah.
Just letting it be what it was and let Stallone and the scene and the turbines just speak for itself was just great job by Randy Edelman.
Yeah, I'll have to be on the lookout for more Randy Edelman movies. I feel like maybe I should just go through his whole filmography. A score can really make the movie.
Totally. It's one of my favorite parts of a movie if it's done well. So now I'm on to my sleeper. I have two really close ones here. All right, I'm going to go with promising a big tip to the cabbie. So this used to be a movie. If you're younger and all you have is like Uber and all the other stuff, you miss the times in which you have maybe 5-6 friends and maybe one of them has a drink in their hand and maybe it's too far to go or whatever it is. You just get in the cab and you yell, big tip, big tip, big tip. And you get to do, at that point, basically anything you want. Clown car, 6 people come on in. We can go too far. One of you crack a couple beers back there. Good to go. And this happened when the 2 doctors get in the car in the beginning and we don't know it's Sly in the front. And he's like, this is going to be tight. And they go, $50, what is it? $50 tip in it for her. And
yeah.
Miracle, what is it? Miracles can happen, Doc, or whatever he says. Like, yeah, it's just you promise that big tip and you just, the incentive is there. You're good to go. You can't yell big tip to an Uber driver. It doesn't work.
Yeah, they're like it's not the same, and you're totally right. It was a different era, and it just you say big tip, and it was like a superpower. It was like you were playing Super Mario, and suddenly you have like the suit on, like you can do stuff you couldn't do before. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and sometimes like if you from Boston, if you were like going to Southie, if you yell big tip, that's almost just saying I'm not going to ditch the cab. I'll at least pay you. Like that's nice. The big tip might just be I'm giving you the money that you earned.
Yeah, that's great. We've lost that as a society, so that's a shame.
Yeah, it was nice to see that again.
Slice of life from another era.
Yep.
My sleeper. This is a deep cut here, but I'm going with tunnel entrances. I think that whenever I'm driving into a tunnel, they always have these just really cool and also kind of creepy entrances above, like it's like I'm talking about above the entrance. There's always like a face or like a wreath or some sort of scene, and you see one here when they're driving into the Holland Tunnel, and they're always there. I always notice them when I'm driving in, and they're always cool, sort of vintage, old school. Just something really interesting and also very creepy. Like maybe this is the last thing I'm going to see before I die in this tunnel. To them.
I think that's maybe why they were put there to begin with. We're not sure, like originally, we're not sure if this tunnel's going to make it. So at least you get one more glimpse of something cool before you die.
Yeah, I think that's right. And they nailed it. Pretty much every tunnel I've ever been in, I'm always like, ooh, there's that thing again. But I'm glad I saw it.
I'm glad I saw it. Let's make it out of here alive.
Yeah.
It's not the last thing I see. That's a good pick.
I used to be terrified. When I remember being a little kid, I was terrified of tunnels. Like wasn't really scared. Wasn't scared of the dark. Wasn't scared of like the boogeyman. But I did not like going in. It was just tunnels that were underwater, really. So if under buildings, fine. But underwater tunnels, I did not care for those.
Maybe you hadn't grasped how that's possible yet. It just seemed like at that young age. Like water's there above us?
Right. That seemed just very, very dangerous. It seemed like a bad idea. Bridges were fine. We're perfectly good. Why not just take a bridge? And I'm glad I hadn't, probably my parents are glad I hadn't seen this movie because I feel like I was coming out of my fear of tunnels right around when this movie probably came out. So that would have really set me back if I'd seen it.
We can finally show Stan Steamer daylight. Now they just over his fear of tunnels. My mom had the opposite problem. She hated bridges. And the only way she could get over it usually is if she closed her eyes and gunned it to get to the other side. Which,
Oh,
yeah, usually, I mean, she usually peaked when if there was traffic, but just without, then let's see what happens.
That's like another disaster movie just waiting to happen.
It's
Grove's
less
mom
scary.
on a bridge.
See what happens. Close your eyes
Hopefully, there's
and
no
look.
toxic waste.
I have an anti-pick.
Ooh, I do too. Let's hear yours. I wonder if it's the
nice.
same.
Oh, let's see. I think there's a 50% chance I'm going to say it's the same, but let's see. I hate in the beginning of the movie when George talked to his girl, and he's like, I got something important I have to tell you. And she's like, can you just tell me now? Like this off. And she's kind of joking about it, but not really. Like, this kind of causes stress and ruins my day, leads to high anxiety when you could just say it now. And I hate when I would get a message from somebody being like, we got to talk later, or can we, something like that. Like, I have something to tell you later. You're like, well, now that's all I'm going to think of. You've ruined my day. Just tell me what it is now, so I don't have to think about it, because my day is ruined if you don't tell me till later.
I love that you picked that, and it's not what I had, but I love that you picked that, because when I was watching this and they had that conversation, I was like, this is the most Grobe conversation I've ever heard in my entire life. I am absolutely 100% positive he feels the exact same way as she does, and I'm so glad you picked that.
Why make someone sit through that? That's so rude.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
What I've been waiting to say all day is I think we need to spend a little more time together.
Yeah.
Easy. Fine.
It's also because in my experience, at least my personal experience, that is always bad news. This was like the rare circumstance where that was not the case. It's always bad.
He was just going to say I love you, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Just
say that. But yeah, it's rare that someone's like, I need to talk later. I love you more than I've been letting on. You're better than I'd imagined.
Yes. It's like, and I won the lottery. It's like, whoa, like that. No, that's not happening.
Yeah, hate that. Let's see what yours is.
Mine is far more simplistic after that. I just hate when cords get tangled.
As I'm looking at your cord swaying right now.
Yeah. I hate when cords get tangled. It's like you carefully wrap your cord up. Maybe it's around a coil, or you wrap it up around your arm or whatever, and you put it neatly back in the box. Wait a week, open it back up. It's without fail in a horrible, horrible rat's nest. I hate having to undo it. It's like, why does this always happen? And here, there's obviously Stallone in the bomb coil wire thing. That should never have tangled, and yet, of course, it tangled, because that's what cords do. That's just cords in the wild; they tangle, and it was very realistic, and it was absolutely horrible.
That is horrible, and our society is trying to phase out cords.
Thank God.
Yeah. We had remember Virtuosity? That whole room was just filled with cords people were tripping over. But now it seems like, we got Bluetooth and everything else. We're trying to rid ourselves of that. I did just buy like a retro gaming system that has Genesis, Nintendo, SNES. It has all the controllers, but I'm back in that world now where I have a mess of cords where I have to pull them up, and then it just inevitably, no matter how well you do, they're going to get tangled again.
There's nothing you can do. Literally nothing. There should be a whole world of science that's just dedicated to studying why cords are constantly tangled. I feel like I need to put a camera in the box of Christmas lights just to see what happens between January and next December, because there's something magical happens in there where all the cords get mixed up.
We need that time lapse video that they do on the Nature Channel, a cocoon hacking, and it's 8 months, but you can see it in 12 seconds. We need to see that and what's going on in the boxes. Have you taken out your 'tis the season?
I've taken the boxes out. I have not yet opened them, in part because I just know the tangle situation I'm about to get into.
Did you intentionally do a really good job last year?
I have coil now. I wrap it around a coil. That makes things pretty good, but there are always still tangles.
Yeah, I did a poor job, so I'm not looking forward to it.
You should just get some new lights.
Okay, yeah. Then you do, and they're then my wife's like, we know we have other lights. Should you return those? I know. I just didn't want to undo
the tangles.
We have to talk later about this tangle issue. I liked your superlative for this one. I think that's what we got next, right?
Yep.
You picked you chose favorite person being rescued, and I love that one. We'll let you go first.
this was a fun one to do because I do think a lot of the bad rap in this film is how annoying and poorly acted and done the supporting cast was. And I think sort of some of that is correct, but it's also totally misguided. And we can get to it. But I do think that a lot of the cast was done really well for these people that were getting rescued. And I think my pick might be controversial here. And it goes right in line with what the critics were saying. But I'm taking the asshole cheating dad, Stephen Crichton. And part of this is maybe just my my sort of dim view of society, but this was so realistic. This guy's a jerk. He's like clearly an asshole. He's always like he's always belittling Stallone. He's like, oh, we can't do this plan. You can't do that. Why are you doing this? You've got to include me in these decisions. What are you doing? Everyone's always saying, like, taking everyone else down, ripping on other people's ideas. And then when it comes time for him to step up and play a role in this escape and this everyone getting out of the tunnel, he's like, oh, he throws up and says, no, I can't possibly do that. I'm a family man. I got to be with my family. It's like, I just, and I know people just like probably hated this guy because he just seems like such an asshole, but that's what people are, assholes. That's exactly the kind of person that I would expect to encounter in this situation. And it was perfectly done.
I liked how it wasn't like a movie character. It was like a person off the street. That guy, you're right, was like, that is the real thing. And what these people were doing, the way they were acting, that's the real thing. Not everyone's a hero. Most people are like, get me in that hole, get me out of here, screaming. And that guy was perfect. That's exactly how that guy would be. I need you to do something, buddy, but I'm not doing it, but I'm going to question everything that you do.
Absolutely. It felt so real. It was like based on a true story. That guy was based on a true story.
I like how that's your favorite. That's good. I guess we both are going to zag a little bit here because my favorite person is probably not most other people's, but I'm going to take Roy Nord or Viggo Mortensen. Like, I know he was a bit of a douche or whatever, but he's also really awesome at what he does. And he was pretty confident that he was trying to get everyone out.
Pretty confident? Yeah. He was the epitome of confidence. I've never seen a character that was more confident in my entire life.
It doesn't, with all that he's done and all that he's achieved, shouldn't he be that confident?
Yeah, sure.
I guess until the very end, but it wasn't. That could have been his movie, though. Part of him, like if Sly wasn't like a wuss, whatever he called him, ambulance guy, like, hey, you're just a wuss who's scared to get up here. If he was one, then he would have been the right guy to follow. Like the whole crew had a decision, like, do we follow this guy who's super famous or like some scandal guy from the news who's not even part of the EMS, whatever anymore?
Oh yeah. If he hadn't died right away, everyone would have followed him. Like if he died like 10 minutes later, everyone's dead because they've all followed him up there and they all got smushed.
He did calm them all down and try to get them out. So outside of his douchiness, he was trying his best to save everyone. No one else had any solutions. Even at that point, Sly had no way out. They had to figure that out later.
Yeah. And just pure attractiveness. It's like probably if like when in doubt, I guess just follow the most attractive person. Always. That's like a pretty good rule, I think.
Yep. Yeah, they haven't lived the hard life. They're going to the easy road is following them. But follow the
like they're definitely gonna, they have a better chance of making it than anybody else.
Right. Yeah, don't follow the ugliest person there.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so we took probably the two biggest jerks as our favorite people being rescued. Nice. I was going to choose George, but he's not being. He's a cop, right? He was part of the rescue process.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe we could have squeezed it in there, but I think that's right. I think he was part of the rescue team, really.
Newish category, bumper sticker.
Yeah, what do you got?
I got mine's. I struggle with this one. I love this category, and I didn't feel like I did a great job. I'm just gonna say, if you see someone in front of you and they look like a douche, it happens a lot. I lived out in Southern California. There's a lot of them out here, and
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. Sure, but it's exhausting being me. If you just see that on someone's car, you just you just want to like tailgate them. I'm like, get up behind them and ride their bumper.
Yep. Yeah, you'd be like, I'll show you how exhausting it is.
See how exhausting it is. It's exhausting having me behind you.
I like that. I'm like pretty sure that is a bumper sticker.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? It's everyone patting themselves on the back.
Right. I am going to take just fight the cold. This is a Stallone line, and I kind of loved it. They're obviously they've swum through that. I don't know what the temperature was. Very, very cold water where they all had to hold their breath. Yeah, 38 degrees. Very obviously very cold. And they had to swim a fair amount of time through that water, and everyone's absolutely freezing. And he's just there saying, "Fight the cold, which is like totally meaningless. But I also kind of loved it because it's sort of like, well, what else are you gonna do? Like, yeah, fight the cold. Fight the cold. Imagine like someone with just like a shitty car and they don't have when you're like your heater's not working right, or it takes forever for your car to heat up. Just fight the cold. Fight the cold.
You don't have heat. Just light up a couple cigarettes and use the warmth of the cigarette when you're driving in that car.
Yeah, fight the cold.
Something. Fight the cold. One of the many pieces of advice that he gave everyone that doesn't mean anything, but like at the time, like, sure, I'll just do this thing somehow. Fight the cold. It's like having a bad coach who just makes you run sprints and is like, fight the pain. You're like, all right, this isn't you saying that doesn't help me at all.
Right. Anyway. It only helps me in a like I can get behind it mentally. Like, yeah, I'm going to fight the cold, but like that doesn't mean anything. But I do feel better now.
I stopped thinking about other things. That's good.
Yeah.
One change should be a blockbuster. I'll let you go first on this one.
So my one change, and we talked about this a little bit before recording the pod. I think all disaster movies really should be capped at like 90 minutes. So this is another one. If the third act dragged a little bit, so I think you could probably trim some of the survivors, make it a smaller party, because you spend time with them obviously in the tunnel. You spend that prep time in the opening scenes where you're getting to know everybody. You could peel off a couple of them, save yourself a couple minutes in the front end, a couple minutes in the back end, and I think that you end up with a tighter film there, because it does. The awesome explosion happens in the beginning, and then that is kind of the struggle with these disaster films, where the action happens up front. You're kind of then it's tough to follow that up. So I think if you just shrink the amount of film time after that, you'll probably be in a better place.
Yeah, totally agree. It's tough. Like you said, it is tough with disaster movies. The reviews for Dante's Peak, which we did before, people had a problem waiting so long before the volcano like blew up. And this was like, all right, fine, we won't have you wait too long. We'll just do it right away. And then it's like, it's hard to keep going after like the biggest part of the movie and then be like, yeah, now we're going to try and get out after that amazing explosion in the first 20 minutes. And then making it be, what is it, like an hour and 50 something minutes? This is way too long as a movie for a disaster movie. Yeah. Hour and a half cap.
Yeah. Because that's absolutely right, that it's really tough to figure out, like, to calibrate where in your disaster movie the disaster happens. And you stretch it out, you have a bunch of mini disasters, you have the fan scene, but keeping that tight 90 minutes gives you more leeway with where to put the disaster.
I feel like we should make that a category going forward, just a quick one, like correct, shorter, or longer, because some of these things could be just so.
It's always going to be shorter.
It's always going to yeah, right. It's always going to be shorter. I guess it's either correct or shorter.
Yeah.
No one ever wants to, it should be another half hour. This, I'm probably biased because I think it's funny. My wife, her father and his whole family comes from Jamaica. So, obviously I hear the Jamaican accent a good amount, and her cousin is like a stuntman in Hollywood, and his biggest pet peeve in movies is the Jamaican accent. It's just like they just give anybody a chance to do the Jamaican accent. The person doing this, I forget her name, but George's girl is from in real life, she's from Cleveland, but yet they give her
definitely not Jamaica,
not Jamaica at all, and it's very obvious. And it's like, what reason do we have to call her Island Girl and say Jamaica? Like, why can't she just be her instead of just like that horrific accent? Which my wife said I couldn't understand. Swear here coming a fucking thing. I had to read the subtitles to get what she was saying because she just couldn't understand what she was saying. So, obviously, this wouldn't change. This wouldn't make it a blockbuster, but it was just like a little pet peeve of mine because I already felt it was a blockbuster. It made $160 million.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe you pick up all of Jamaica. Maybe no one in Jamaica was like, screw this. I can't watch this. They turn it off 10 minutes in once they hear her. So maybe you pick up a whole bunch of, entire nation.
Yeah, maybe. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to talk about my biggest pet peeve of the movie, which is the most horrific death we've had on this podcast. George's death was horrible.
It was
He
bad.
deserved way better. The poor guy gets, like, why do we even rescue him? He's like, thanks guys for like banding together and getting me out of there. But he's like, I think my neck is broken. Oh yeah. Your neck is broken. Okay.
Yep. It's like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, by the way. And instead of like, we're just going to leave you here to die alone as you just like gasp for air in terror and you probably drown, I guess is what happens.
Best case.
Yeah. You just sit there. It's just in the water, like slowly creeps up. So you die even, I don't know. It was just like the worst death for one of the best characters in the movie.
Yeah, I think this knocked off the little girl's death in the open of Sudden Death. This is now our most horrific death. Yes.
Most horrific death is George.
And it's right, because we got to know George, and he was the most complete and human character we had. And then he just went through this horrible end. And they also, because of the way that everyone came together to rescue him, it was so triumphant that you just assumed that he was going to be fine.
Yeah.
Why else would they have done this?
Well, there's some rumors about how because he was black and the other guy that died was black, many times in movies, oftentimes those are the people who died pretty early, and this was not different than that. It's just like, why couldn't you go up from under the car, like you said, and just be fine and give the bracelets back? And that seems like a happier thing as opposed to like everyone just like slowly walking away from George, being like, all right, buddy.
Yeah, right. Give him a broken leg. Like he doesn't need a broken back.
Exactly. It just seems completely unnecessary. All right, let's get to our last category. Spin-off ideas. Got any good ones?
They tease us with this. I think I just want the Stallone backstory. I want to know what happened in the South Bronx with that building collapse. I mean, we get these little details. Everyone hints at it, and I kind of like that they don't give us the whole. Like there's no flashback. There's no like, oh, do you remember 4 years ago? They just tease us with a couple little details. We know it's a building collapse. We know that he was part of the team. They were the first ones in. 3 guys died, including Frank's brother. And it sounds like there was some politics involved and making sure there was a fall guy. But it also sounds that Stallone was just doing his best to save people. He was rushing into this building because he wanted to save these people and other people wouldn't. And the fact that a gas main blew, I mean, that's part of the risks that you run when you're an EMS. When you're a first responder, you take those risks, and that's what you sign up for. And that's part of the reason that these people in these jobs are so, they're heroes, because they do sacrifice their lives. And I think he was living up to that pedestal of what a lot of those people are. And he got taken down for it. And I think there's obviously a lot there. I think I'd like to see it. It'd be a very different movie. There's probably a lot more sort of like a procedural type film. Right. There's a lot of politics involved. But I also kind of like the little political bent that was in the sort of local politics piece of this movie, where they're like, oh, we got to open this tunnel back up because so many cars come through and we need this. The city needs this, but we might have to sacrifice these people that are in there. Those kind of little local politics things I think are pretty interesting. They don't really make a ton of those movies anymore, but maybe back in the 90s they would have.
And that's what was driving decisions. Yeah. And I was going to say, I like the little nod, the little Easter eggs almost of him getting weird respect and like it being fractured, as far as some people think he should have been kicked off the force or whatever, and others being like, he's my chief. Like when you're up to that random guy.
In the beginning.
Or whatever. And the guy's like, and he asks the guy, where's the chief? And he goes, as far as I'm considered, he's right here, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's that sign of respect from the whole group. Like, you're still the chief, but something weird happened that shouldn't have. It was a great little nod. But I can't believe that the prequel wasn't made, because that'd be amazing. I would love to see these two like in order. First one.
Oh, yeah.
Good to go. My spin-off idea is a bit off the rails.
Oh yeah, I love it. Let's hear it.
Stallone is my favorite actor of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if have I said that before?
I don't know if you've gone as far as to say of all time, but certainly top actor.
Officially, after this one, and I should have said it before, he's my favorite actor. And I would like to take a page out of Van Damme's book because he's so good in so many movies where they put him in the movie twice. He plays himself. Right. He acts against himself. So my spinoff is it's called Siblings of Shadows. So this happens afterwards. It combines Stallone's character from Cliffhanger and Stallone's character from this, which is, I think, Gabe and what's his name? He has the coolest name ever in this movie. Kit
Latura. Yeah, it's
yeah,
great.
So Kit and Gabe. So Cliffhanger him and this him turned out to be identical brothers separated at birth, which explains their ridiculous upper body strength. They both can climb with one hand and scale mountains and anything they can find, except for a wet, rocky area in the end. And they didn't know they were related until they get kidnapped and put in a room and told and look at each other. And for the first time, like 30 minutes of the movie, they look at each other and Stallone looking at Stallone and they're acting off of each other. And they're forced to kind of like Cliffhanger, traverse this mountain to get to, I don't know, I haven't worked out the specifics. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They have to get up there to get to the research facility. And they have to brave the elements and climb together to get to this thing, to accomplish this thing for the evil villain. And when they get up there, they find out the evil villain, they weren't identical twins. They were identical triplets, except this one didn't. This is the evil genius one who didn't get any of the brawn. He'd got none of the physical abilities. He looks the same. And what they do is they CGI it to look like Chris Evans in the first Captain America when he's like all skinny and like, oh man, I'm frail. So that's the evil genius one being like, I didn't get any of your gifts and I'm angry and this will make everyone equal. And so we end up having 3 Stallones in one movie. One is the Cliffhanger one is this one, and one is the Chris Evans scaled back one, and they're all fighting each other.
This is so good.
We're working together in one against them. I just want all Stallones in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like obviously we missed our chance on this, but with all this AI stuff now, I feel like maybe they could still do this.
Right. Tupac is still performing, so we can get 3
why
Stallones.
Can't we get 3 Stallones? Yeah, why can't that happen tomorrow? Why can't I just
it's billed as it's like a double impact. There's only 2 Stallones. And you find the last 10 minutes there's a third.
This would be tough. I feel like this would have been perfect for the 90s too, because you couldn't keep this off the internet now. That's the problem, right? Like everyone, you'd instantly know about the third Stallone. But in the 90s, you could have done that because unless your friends ruined it for you, there wasn't the internet to ruin things.
Right. Blair Witch, Sixth Sense. Everyone was surprised.
Man.
Yeah. So let's squeeze a bunch of Stallones. It's Jean-Claude. He did. Jean-Claude did that in 3 movies.
Yeah.
Did against himself. Incredible.
So good. So good. That's fantastic.
Off the rails
I love that idea.
All right, let's go on to notes. I have a question for you. Do you think this is what's a darker movie, this or The Relic?
I think The Relic was maybe the darkest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It's tough to knock that off. This obviously had, especially at the end, like the last third of the film was pretty dark, but I got to go with The Relic. Throughout the entire film, it was dark.
Yep. All right, you got anything?
Let's see. It was a little uncomfortable with the Stallone's son hitting on the 14-year-old. I know he was also young, but he seemed older. Like he just seemed older, and that seemed a little weird to me.
I agree. I think it was his hair.
Yeah, he has old hair.
Yeah.
This movie did make me think about, like, how do they decide whether you're going to have a tunnel or a bridge? And then I went down a whole rabbit hole about that. It seems like it mostly depends on the terrain. And sort of like the tunnel needs to go underground, obviously. So it sort of depends on how deep the whatever you're trying to traverse is. There's a whole bunch of different things, but there was not one clear answer. I feel like I went down a rabbit hole, but maybe not deep enough.
Oh, well, I mean, it's like playing SimCity. Like you want to build a bridge at the tunnel. I mean, I don't know, 50-50. Yeah. I liked the part at the end when it happens a lot in disaster movies or It happened in Forrest Gump with Lieutenant Dan when you just start screaming at the storm or the disaster, like,
Oh, yeah.
you can't take me, or even Truman Show when he's just like screaming up at the clouds, the fake clouds. It's very, I always think of Lieutenant Dan, and I love the end when Stallone was like, I got your heart. You tried to kill me. Now I got your heart. And he's just
So good.
screaming. And the girls next to him being like, I mean, whatever, we're about to die. Do yell.
Yeah, have at it.
I don't care. But him screaming at the tunnel was amazing.
The other thing that I didn't totally didn't make sense to me was all the kids coming from juvie. Why didn't they take their jumpsuits off? Right, like there's a lot of chaos. This is your chance to escape. Maybe if they were in real jail and this was not just sort of a juvie situation, they would have. But it seems like now's your chance to just take that off, put on something else, anything else, and just in the chaos of the situation, just drift off.
Yeah, they could have just kind of gotten away at the end there after the paramedics got them. Now they show up with jumpsuits.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden Sean's girlfriend is going back to juvie.
Exactly. Sort of not the smartest move, but
yeah,
maybe they're like only got 6 more months or something. It's not worth it.
And the last thing I got is the oyster story. I almost picked that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a touching moment.
Yep. Other than that, that's all I got.
Like I'd said at the end of last episode, I hadn't seen this before, so this was my first watch, and it was fantastic. I feel like I'm definitely gonna rewatch at very least the explosion scene a few more times. Like I feel like sometimes I just fire up movies for a scene or two, and the explosion scene and the fan scene are 2 all-timers in my book.
Couldn't agree more. What are we doing next?
We got the second half that this was unannounced, but we have taken this one Stallone movie, much like your movie idea, your spin-off idea. We've turned it into 2 Stallones. We're doing a back-to-back Stallone double feature. Also, I think back-to-back in time, but in reverse order. We're going with Judge Dredd.
I don't think I've been more excited about a podcast yet. And I guess I say that a lot because it's the next one. But I cannot wait to watch this again.
Yeah, I haven't seen this in a while, and I remember having a great time watching it. And this was also one of those movies that I was floored when I learned that it was not received well.
I thought this was like the most popular movie of the 90s. One of the, like, in top 10. I liked it so much. It was like video games, and there were action figures and all that stuff.
It was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I think it was a comic book first. So yeah, I can't wait to do it.
I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I get my wish, and we get to do more Stallone. So Judge Dredd next time. This was a blast. Later.